Welcome back, guys, in another episode in the Sovereign Renaissance. In today's episode, we're going to be discussing the strategic silence, neutralizing the Warlock's use of emotional ghosting as social currency. We strip and shed light on the Warlock's tactical withdrawal by debunking how intentional silence functions as a high stake lever for social dominance. We lay out the mechanics of emotional ghosting, transforming this calculated absence into a powerless void. By reclaiming internal validation, we neutralize their curated scarcity and break the cycle of psychological debt and dependency. Project MK Ultra was a top secret, illegal human experimentation program conducted by the US Central Intelligence Agency, or the CIA, from 1953 to 1973. Its primary goal was to develop techniques and identify drugs, most famously LSD, that could be used in interrogation techniques to weaken individuals and force confessions through brainwashing and psychological torture. The program consisted over 150 sub-projects involving extreme and often inhumane methods. The administration of high doses of LSD, heroin, morphine, and barbiturates, the psychological torture, the use of hypnosis, electroshock therapy, sensory deprivation, and verbal abuse. This was done and subjecting patients to continuous tape loops of repetitive messages while they were in drug induced comas. Many experiments were performed on people without their knowledge or consent, including prisoners, mental health patients, and even CIA employees. The program came to light in 1975 through investigations by the Church Committee and the Rockefeller Commission. In 1973, CIA Director at the time, Richard Helms, ordered the destruction of most MK files to hide the program's scope, though a cache of financial documents survived and was later discovered in 1977. The revelations led to stricter laws regarding informed consent for human experimentation, including a 1976 executive order by President Gerald Ford. One of the most famous victims was Dr. Frank Olson, a government scientist who died after being unwittingly dosed with LSD by his supervisor. His family eventually received an alleged sum of $750,000 settlement and a formal apology from the US government. The intersection of malignant personality traits and historical psychological conditioning creates a complex framework for understanding high control dynamics. While MK Ultra is a specific historical CIA program, its name is often used as a shorthand to describe the, the extreme psychological coercion and no touch torture techniques used in interpersonal or cult like settings. Here's an analysis of how a narcissistic warlock archetype, one who combines narcissistic personality traits with a veneer of esoteric or magical authority, utilizes high control tactics to dominate their victims. Number one, the weaponization of the ego ideal. The controller first presents as a divine or supernaturally gifted being. They use the victim's own spiritual or psychological aspirations to create a shared fantasy. Love bombing as induction. In the initial stage, the controller mirrors the victim's highest spiritual ideals, making them feel like a chosen partner in a cosmic mission. The guru-disciple bond. By positioning themselves as a warlock or master of hidden knowledge, they create an information asymmetry. The victim begins to rely on the controller to interpret reality, signs, and even their own intuition. Number two, psychological fragmentation, the MK Ultra parallel. MK Ultra focused on breaking the subject's psyche to create suggestibility. A high control narcissistic achieves this through psychic or emotional stressors, gaslighting through metaphysics. If a victim notices a contradiction, the controller may claim the victim's vibration is too low, or they are being influenced by dark forces or entities. This forces the victim to doubt their own perceptions in favor of the controller's higher sight. Sleep and sensory deprivation. Many narcissistic cult leaders utilize long, late night teaching sessions or erratic schedules. This wears down the prefrontal cortex, making the victims more susceptible to hyponic suggestion and trauma bonding. Number three, creating double binds. A hallmark of high control system is the double bind, where the victim is punished regardless of their choice. The spiritual trap. The victim is told they must surrender their ego to grow. However, any act of self preservation or boundary setting is labeled as egoic resistance. Isolation. The controller systematically sever the victim's ties to family and friends, labeling them as unawakened or toxic to the victim's spiritual progress. Number four, trauma bonding and intermittent reinforcement. The warlock figure alternates between extreme divine affection and cold, terrifying punishment, often framed as spiritual purging. The dopamine loop, the unpredictability of the controller's mood, creates a chemical addiction in the victim's brain. The victim becomes hypervigilant, constantly scanning the controller's mood to avoid the next devaluation phase. Number five, esoteric anchoring and triggers. Similar to the psychological anchors used in NLP or neuro-linguistic programming or historical conditioning programs, the controller may use specific symbols, chants, or repetitive spiritual phrases to trigger a state of submission. Phobia indoctrination. The controller implants fears of karmic retribution, soul loss, or demonic attack should the victim ever leave. This creates an internal, invisible fence that keeps the victim captive, even when they are physically alone. Summary of the tactics. Mirroring. Now, the objective is to create a soulmate illusion, while its psychological effect creates emotional dependence. Word salad. This is used to cause confusion or information overload, which ultimately disables critical thinking. Triangulation. Using a third party or spirit to create jealousy. This ultimately destroys the self esteem. And lastly, Projection, accusing the victim of the controller's traits, while this causes chronic guilt and shame. The pattern break. When a warlock disappears, it's not an accident, it's a calculated move to turn their absence into your obsession. They use emotional ghosting as social currency to manufacture scarcity and keep you in a psychological debt. Illuminating this tactical withdrawal and illuminating how to turn their high stakes lever into a powerless void. Understanding these mechanics is the first step in deconstructing the glamour of the controller and reclaiming individual autonomy. And if you like today's video, please do like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, goodbye.